This dish sounds like something you might call a funny relative. Its origins are from the American Deep South, but can be traced back across the ocean to Africa. While its ingredients may be simple, its flavors are complex. We're diving into the history and origins of Hoppin John. I'm your host, Glenn Warren, and welcome to another serving of Seasons Eatings, the podcast which explores the history and origins of your favorite Christmas foods. Seasons Eatings is available wherever you download your favorite podcasts, so please subscribe so we can have other listeners join in the Christmas table. If you have a quick minute, please leave a review for the podcast. It lets me know how I'm doing as well as helping others find the podcast. And if you let me know you left a review, I'll send you a Seasons Eatings sticker as my personal thank you. Seasons Eatings can also be found on all the socials. All these links can be found on the website, seasonseatingspodcast.com. And while you're at the site and feeling extra generous this holiday season, you can buy me an eggnog. Just click on the little cup at the top of the page and you can leave a donation for as little as $3. Each donation goes towards the running of the podcast and is greatly appreciated. There is something unmistakable about the foods we return to during the holidays. They are rarely the most elaborate dishes, nor the most modern. Instead, they're the ones that carry memory, recipes that reappear year after year, anchoring us to family, to place, and to tradition. Hoppin John is one of those dishes. While many today associate it with New Year's Day, its deeper roots in Virginia and the broader American South place it firmly within the winter holiday season as a whole, a time stretching from Christmas through the turning of the year. In earlier traditions, the boundaries between Christmas feasting and New Year's ritual were fluid, and dishes like Hoppin John moved seamlessly between them, embodying both celebration and intention. As a baker and food historian, I'm always drawn to foods like this, dishes that are not just eaten, but observed and repeated and believed in. Hoppin John is more than just rice and peas. It's a dish of continuity, one that speaks to survival through the past year and a hope for the one ahead. Even the name of this dish tells a story shaped by cultural exchange and migration. We'll explore its deep ties to Virginia and the Atlantic world before stepping into the kitchen to understand how its preparation reflects both tradition and symbolism, especially during the Christmas season and the winter holidays. So let's address this interesting name first. Hoppin John. It's one of those culinary titles that feels playful, almost whimsical. But like many traditional dishes, its origins are anything but simple. There are several competing theories, and none are definitely proven, which is often the case with dishes rooted in oral tradition. One widely cited explanation traces the name to the French term pois pigeon, meaning pigeon peas. As French-speaking populations interacted with English speakers, particularly in colonial port regions like Virginia and the Carolinas, the phrase may have been anglicized over time into something resembling Hoppin John. Linguistically, this transformation is plausible, especially in environments where multiple languages coexisted under uneven power structures. Another theory is a bit more folkloric. It suggests that this dish was sold by street vendors, possibly by a man named John who had a limp, hence Hoppin. While charming, this explanation lacks historical documentation and likely reflects a latter attempt to rationalize an already established name. And a third interpretation connects the term to a West African linguistic pattern. Some scholars propose that Hoppin John may derive from Creole or Pidgin adaptations of African words related to legumes or rice dishes. This theory carries particular weight when we begin to examine the dish's deeper cultural roots. What's important here is not choosing a single correct origin, but recognizing that the name itself reflects cultural blending. French, English, and African influences all converging in a colonial context. The Oxford English Dictionary's first reference to the dish is from Frederick Law Olmsted's 19th century travelogue, A Journey in the Seaboard Slave States from 1861. There is also a recipe for Hoppin John in the Carolina Housewife by Sarah Rutledge, which was published in 1847. It's also cited as the earliest reference. But there's an even earlier source, is Recollections of a Southern Matron, which mentions Hoppin John defined in a note as bacon and rice in early 1838. These early recipes situate Hoppin John geographically, but also culturally. While it's often associated broadly with the American South, Virginia, particularly the coastal and tidewater regions, played a crucial role in shaping the dish as we know it today. At its core, Hoppin John is a combination of rice and legumes, typically black-eyed peas, often accompanied by pork. And while this structure is not uniquely American, in fact, it closely resembles West African dishes such as waki from Ghana or rice and bean preparations found around Senegal and Sierra Leone. And this is not a coincidence. During the transatlantic slave trade, enslaved Africans brought with them not only agricultural knowledge, but culinary frameworks, ways of combining ingredients, techniques for cooking rice, and an understanding of legumes as both sustenance and symbol. Rice cultivation in the American South, including parts of Virginia, depended heavily on the expertise of enslaved Africans, particularly those from the rice coast of West Africa. These individuals were deliberately targeted for their knowledge. So, when we see a dish like Hoppin John, cooked rice with legumes, we are looking at a direct line of continuity. Moreover, black-eyed peas themselves have African origins. They were transported across the Atlantic and became a staple in southern agriculture. Rice, too, became a defining crop in the region. Virginia, as one of the earliest English colonies, was a point of convergence. Indigenous ingredients, European cooking methods, and African culinary traditions all met here. Hoppin John emerged from this intersection, not as a static recipe, but as a flexible, evolving dish. Over time, it became associated with prosperity and luck, particularly in winter celebrations. Legumes symbolized coins. The rice represented abundance. When paired with greens, often collards or mustard greens, the symbolism expanded to include wealth and growth. Another traditional food, cornbread, can also be served to represent wealth being the color of gold. On the day after New Year's Day, leftover Hoppin John is called Skippin' Jenny, and further demonstrates one frugality, bringing a hope for an even better chance of prosperity to the new year. And although many people now associate Hoppin' John primarily with New Year's Day, its role in Christmas and the broader winter season is equally significant, especially in earlier traditions. In agrarian societies, winter was a time of sacrifice, reflection, and careful resource management. Dishes like Hoppin' John were practical. They used dried legumes, cured meats, and stored grains. But they also carried a meaning. Christmas, particularly in southern communities, was not only a religious observance, but a rare moment of abundance. Preserved pork, ham hocks, bacon, salt pork were brought out. Rice, which required significant labor to produce, was used generously. Black-eyed peas stored from the harvest were rehydrated and cooked slowly. Serving a dish like Hoppin' John during Christmas signaled both gratitude and hope. It acknowledged survival through the year and expressed optimism for the next. In African American communities, this symbolism was especially powerful. Food became a language, one that spoke of endurance, continuity, and cultural identity, even under oppressive conditions. We'll continue and find out how Hoppin' John is made after the break.
For over 10 years, the Can't Wait for Christmas podcast has been doing deep dives into your favorite Christmas topics. Muppet Christmas Carol, Jingle Bells, Bing Crosby, A Charlie Brown Christmas, Mistletoe, Die Hard, Secret Santa, It's a Wonderful Life, Fake Christmas Tree, Christmas Muppet Carol, Family, How the Grinch, Polar Express, Leon Conquers the March, Silent Activities, Charles Dickens, A Bomb for Christmas. And we're just getting started. Tune in for new episodes on the 25th of every month or explore our archives at can'twaitforchristmaspod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
I can't wait for Christmas.
Hello, fellow Christmas lovers and enthusiasts. Are you missing that magic holiday feeling? What if we could unwrap a little bit of Christmas every single day? Welcome to Closer to Christmas, the daily podcast that counts down the days until the next Christmas. Think of it as an advent calendar for your ears. Each quick, festive episode brings you one day closer to twinkling lights, cozy nights, and that Merry Christmas magic we all love. Follow along on social media at Closer to Xmas for extra holiday cheer. And visit closertochristmas.com to listen, subscribe, and never miss a merry moment. Closer to Christmas, because the countdown to magic starts today.
New Year celebrations have always been a time of taking simple ingredients and transforming them into something extraordinary. At its simplest, Hoppin' John consists of black-eyed peas, rice, pork, often smoked or cured, an aromatic such as an onion, and then seasoning, which includes salt and pepper and sometimes herb and spices. But from a technical standpoint, this is a study in balance. The black-eyed peas provide protein and a creamy texture when properly cooked. They must be tender but not disintegrating. This requires controlled simmering and ideally pre-soaking to ensure even hydration. The rice, typically long grain, acts as both a starch and a structural element. It absorbs the cooking liquid, often enriched with pork fat and the broth from the peas, creating a cohesive dish rather than separate components. and the pork introduces fat, salt, and depth. In traditional preparations, this is not incidental, it's essential. The fat carries the flavor, while the cured nature of the meat adds complexity through processes like smoking and salting. The aromatics, particularly the onion, provide a foundational sweetness and aroma. In some versions, garlic or peppers are included, but the core remains restrained. And while some contemporary African American cooks assume the black-eyed pea was the legume in Hoppin John, some scholars believe it was the red black-eyed cow pea, specifically a variety grown in and around the Sea Islands. It's believed that in the Americas, Hoppin John originated from the Gullah people and was originally a low-country one-pot dish before spreading to the entire population of the South. So using the cow pea reflects some of the change and transformation that may have taken place as enslaved Gullah Geechee families prepared their long simmering dish with vegetables grown in their own garden. Perhaps the color of the Red Sea pea reminded them of familiar food aesthetics passed down by their ancestors. In the words of one planter, "There is no vegetable of which Negroes are more fond of than the common field pea. They are nutritious, and if cooked perfectly done, the well seasoned with red pepper, are quite healthy." This observation is repeated by Frederick Law Olmsted, stating in his 1856 book, Journey of the Seaboard Slave States. So the process of how Hoppin John is made has an emphasis on traditional technique. This process typically begins with the peas, which are soaked either overnight or through a quick soak method to reduce cooking time and promote even texture. This step is both practical and symbolic. Rehydration, bringing something dormant back to life. The peas are then simmered, often with a piece of pork, such as a ham hock. This is where the flavor development begins. Collagen from the pork breaks down over time, enriching the liquid and giving the peas a silky mouth feel. Separately, rice may be cooked or in more integrated methods added directly to the pot once the peas are partially cooked. This allows the rice to absorb the seasoned liquid, binding the dish together. One must use a starchy long-grain Carolina rice, and timing is critical. Overcooked peas lose their structure. Undercooked rice disrupts the texture. A skilled cook understands how to manage heat and sequencing to bring together everything at the right moment. In many traditional kitchens, this dish is not rushed. It's cooked slowly, often in large quantities, and shared. As mentioned earlier, this dish is often accompanied by greens, sometimes collard greens, mustard greens, or even turnip greens. And these are not merely side dishes, they are part of a symbolic system. As said before, the black-eyed peas represent coins, the greens represent money, paper money, and the rice represents abundance. Together they form a meal that is both nourishing and aspirational. And in some traditions, a coin is placed beneath the serving dish or even within the pot, and whoever finds it is said to have good luck in the coming year. Another tradition that's common is that each person at the meal should leave 3 peas on their table to ensure that the new year will be filled with luck, fortune, and romance. Another tradition holds that counting the number of peas in a serving predicts the amount of luck or wealth that the diner will have in the incoming year. And from a professional standpoint, what's fascinating is how symbolism and technique reinforce each other. The slow cooking, the use of preserved ingredients, the communal serving, these are not arbitrary choices. They reflect a worldview in which food is both sustenance and narrative. So what makes Hoppin' John endure is not just its flavor. Though that quiet richness, the melding of rice, peas, and pork, certainly matters. What gives it staying power is its place at the table during the most reflective time of year. In the space between Christmas and New Year, we find ourselves doing two things at once: looking back and looking forward. And Hoppin' John exists precisely in that space. It's made from stored ingredients, foods that have lasted through the seasons. Yet it's served with intention, as a gesture towards what is to come. In Virginia and across the South, placing this dish on the holiday table was never accidental. It was a quiet ritual, a way of saying, we made it through the year. We are preparing with care and hope for the next. And for those of us who cook professionally or even just thoughtfully, this is a powerful reminder. The dishes we prepare during the holidays are not just about technique or precision. They are about continuity, about carrying something forward. So when you encounter Hoppin' John during the Christmas season, or as the new year approaches, consider what it represents. Not just prosperity or luck in a symbolic sense, but something more grounded. Resourcefulness, memory, endurance, and perhaps most importantly, the idea that even the simplest dish placed on the table at the right time of year can hold an entire history within it. I'm your host, Glenn Warren, and thank you for listening to another serving of Seasons Eatings. Seasons Eatings can be found wherever you download your favorite podcasts. I would love to hear from you, so you can contact me at seasonseatingspodcast@gmail.com. You can leave me ideas for future episodes, leave me a comment or criticism, or just say hello. Also, if you leave me a 5-star review and let me know, I'll send you a Seasons Eating sticker as a personal thank you. We also have some great merchandise. Click on the tab to find your next great gift at seasonseatingspodcast.com. Thanks again for having another serving of Seasons Eatings. All music used on Seasons Eatings is royalty-free and used under the Creative Commons license.